Hello everybody, this is Paul from Fat Brain Books, and I operate the Fat Brain Books blog, and our company fatbrain.co.uk buys a lot of books and sells a lot of books, and we're looking to get a lot of books from you guys who listen to this, and I want to tell you a little bit about how to look for good books, what sells. It's all supply and demand, and if you are smart and you look around, I'll tell you there's people out there who just basically throw books away. And if you get enough quantity, there'll be some books obviously that aren't going to be worth a lot, but then there's going to be a lot of books that you'll find, you'll be surprised what books might be in very, very hot demand and what the price might be. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about some popular books. For example, this book here, anytime you see something like this, national bestseller. This is a couple, I think about a year old, called The Age of Wonder. It's a non-fiction. It's been on the New York Times Book Review. And a lot of people bought this. The publishers have probably moved on to some other books right now and everything, but you know, somebody may have read this or gotten it as a gift and you come across it as free. It's probably on the list that we buy a million titles. And just keep in mind the quality. You got to have a good quality book. Naturally, in the used market especially, people are looking for a deal. They go on, they come and they try to find a book, and it's great to have them being passed on to other people, you know, and you can find these books sometimes at yard sales, thrift shops, and so on. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about some other types of books. This is another popular nonfiction. You're not going to get a lot probably on the used market, you know, selling this to, but, you know, again, fill up the boxes and you'll get a whole bunch of money. Now, here's another type of book, again, being on the New York Times bestseller. And it has a reprint basically of a popular book. Again, the classics. Anything that was a popular literature in the past, sooner or later somebody's going to want to read it, because people who read books, they go and explore the old classics, so they stay in demand. And usually people buy a book like this and maybe they'll read it, they'll share it. But again, you can find them cheap, so you send them in and fill up the boxes. Now, a couple of really different kinds of books here. I got one here. This is a really old classic. Again, the paperbacks may not be worth a lot, but you can get them pretty much for nothing a lot of times. This is a book by a man named Velikovsky. It was really popular. He had a theory about how the earth was made and so on, and it became kind of a classic. He opened up some thoughts about that issue. So again, you can find these for practically nothing. So when you look through books, you can't always just look at the glossy, for example, something like this, a coffee table book. You have to look at some of the other books that might be there, and you never know. So after you send in some, you'll get a little feel for what we're buying, and then you'll have a better idea when you go around and look for books, what not to get. Now, to give you an example here, you'll find a lot of this type of coffee table book out there. Great pictures, really probably took a lot of money to produce this book. Lasts a really long time. You find it in a really good condition. Somebody's going to want to buy it. This is about the art of the Renaissance and so on. So again, you know, you never know. If they're not likely to reprint this type of book. For example, you know, in textbooks and so on, they come out with a new edition every 2 or 3 years on the lower levels. Something like this, the publishers made it, they printed X copies. Unless, you know, they see a tremendous demand, they're not going to reprint this book. On the other hand, there might be people out there who had never heard of this book, and maybe if they saw it there on site, you know, they'd like to buy it. Again, condition matters. Specialty things, niches. Again, people like to knit, for example. This is only one of many, many niches. There's World War II, there's weapons, there's gardening, there's all kinds of stuff, sewing. And this type of book, a lot of people who are into that hobby, they like to have a nice collection, so they're looking for new ideas and new samples. Make sure it's in good condition, has nice pictures and so on. Again, the publishers aren't likely to reprint a book like this, so the ones that are out there, maybe they've been used for a while, or maybe they just sat on the shelf, so you can get them real cheap and send them in. Here's another popular book about crows and ravens. Now, this was not on the New York Times bestseller list, but it's a popular subject. It's a classic kind of book, has great writing and illustrations. Something like this might be in demand. It's got the barcode on it. Anytime you see a barcode on the back of a book, you know it had to be in last, say, since 1990s or something, or earlier, depending on, you know, they have a standard now that they use. So you see that on the back, you know it's easily trackable in terms of scanning it in and finding out what the value is. So as an ISBN number. Now, again, when you're looking for books, go to thrift shops. There's a lot of people who have, like, someone passes on or something, and they'll take all their big boxes of books and they'll go down to a thrift shop or a library and you'll say, here, I'd like you to take these books. But a lot of times the libraries don't want the books. So here's an opportunity. Fat Brain Books is looking for good quality used books to stock the shelf. We want to have as many books as possible, and if with 1 million popular titles being bought, I mean, that leaves a lot of room for looking again for quality and so on. So if you have any questions, certainly contact our help desk and email us, because we're very responsive. And when it comes to packing books, again, you don't want them to get damaged, because a lot of times people value their books and they'll take really good care of them. They'll sit on a nice shelf for a long time, and then when it's time to pass them on and share them and so on, they're often in very good condition. But you want to pack them in a nice way. Don't pack them on the edge, pack them flat, and use the little books, the low value books, to tuck in around. Pack it all, make sure the box is really tight and sealed properly. You don't want it to get wet. Certainly you don't want to leave it on the porch or get the box wet. So give it a nice seal and set it in, and you'll get a check from fatbrain.co.uk. And this is one company that is rare, because I believe we're the only company, certainly in the UK, that's paying cash for books, because we want a huge inventory. And there's a lot of really great books out there, so be a book hound. Go out there, and if you have any questions, again, contact us and we'll be happy to help you. I wanted to add a few minutes to talk about the kind of subjects that fatbrain.co.uk is buying. Now, books, as you know, there's millions of subjects practically, but any kind of subject that you get into that seems to have a national or world popularity, the culture is going that way, there's a big movie out, someone's name is in, like for example, you know, a famous movie star might buy. So all of a sudden, you know, all the things that he did, books about him, all those kind of books, people are going to be curious, they're going to be trying to buy the book. Something like that, very timely information, current events and so on. But there's a lot of really popular subjects: hobbies, travel, photography, aviation, and of course now textbooks. So worried about textbooks. Textbooks are very high value. Everybody knows you go to school, you have to pay a ton of money for your books. Now if you study what's in the books, you can make a career out of it, and then you sell your books back. And by the way, if you have a textbook, sell it back quickly, and they're like hot potatoes basically. You know, you have to kind of grab them while they're there. Now on the other hand, the higher level textbooks, for example, the very upper level, written by famous people. For example, if you found a textbook written by, you know, one of the famous Oppenheimer or something like that, you'd find, wow, that was really amazing, you know, so that might be in demand. Historical stuff. There are people who, oddly enough, it sounds funny, but they would like to have classic old books just because for the look of their lounge or their library and so on. And like I said, you have to be very selective. You can't just buy all the books, but if you have a chance to get a whole pile of books at once, just someone says, here, take these 10 boxes of books, just take them, you know, because there's likely in there like money basically hiding in those boxes. So again, you have to kind of be like a book hound, and there's a little bit of discretion and feel if you can get high quality books. I mean, sometimes you have what they call a used book, but it's in like superb condition. It's like it's never been used. I mean, I'm sure I have books like that I bought and I never got a chance to read them. So it takes a little bit of energy, but you get a feel for it after a while. You do go to, you know, universities are great places where people have a lot of books, the professors and so on. And so you can go to schools and ask them, and you know, there's ways actually you can get a scanning device now that'll make it easier to scan in books. But keep an open mind, because as I illustrated earlier, there's just a huge range of subjects and types of books. And you know, what we want to do is we buy books based on the popularity of the current popularity on Amazon and other places on the marketplace that we can track. And you know, so you have to kind of keep that in mind. Don't expect, like, just because it's got a hardcover and lots of pictures, that it's going to be worth $100 like a textbook, because it's not. You know, but on the other hand, it's not useless either. So